Chapter 8, Pastors and Elders. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen, even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Matthew 18:17. In September, Chad asked our current head pastor Jacob and our music director Drake, also one of our small group leaders of 3 years, if he could come in and meet with them. I chose not to attend, or I might have entered the church building and started yelling, screaming, crying, or punching someone. Chad said the head pastor expressed his understanding why we needed to attend a different fellowship in order to heal. Our friend Drake agreed and even admitted that Stan had called Jerry after every dinner meeting we'd have with him and his wife over a period of 9 months. Given Stan was good friends with Jerry while on church staff together, Stan would tell Jerry what we had shared at our dinner meetings, and Jerry would immediately refute what we said. It appeared their days in the office were met with juicy morsels of gossip while excluding us from those conversations. When Chad told me what our music director admitted was happening inside the church offices, I decided I'd had enough with Stan as well. He was another one of Jerry's puppets. I wrote an email to the head pastor Jacob and music director Drake. They didn't reply, so 10 days later I sent a follow-up. This time Drake offered a few comforting words via email, but that was it. I decided to go full circle and communicate with the very last level of leadership in our home church since Stan had lost my trust. The head pastor never responded to me, and the music pastor simply shrugged his shoulders while briefly giving me well wishes. This matter needed to go before the elders of the church. Chad wrote an email to the elders, and the head elder responded by saying what we communicated was not what Stan and Drake had reported had happened. I was incredulous. Why would Drake stand before the elders to give a report on us when he hadn't even reached out to us or heard our story? I responded to the elders and suggested that the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses had not actually occurred because Drake was not a witness. We were. They asked if I wanted to meet, and I said yes. In preparation for the meeting, I compiled a timeline of events and all email communications into a folder. 2 of the elders met Chad and me at a park shelter next to a river one cold day in October. The 4 of us sat at the picnic table together. They listened for a long time, validated our pain, and shared their love. It was a comforting meeting. However, their simple synopsis was issues were being swept under the rug. They said that Jerry and Janet had moved on from the church, so there was no need to try to pursue anything, even though they are still supported by the church, preach at the church, and host some of the church's missions activities, including ongoing trips to Patrick and Heidi. The elders encouraged us that God would avenge. I handed them the folder and a copy of the book The Subtle Power of Spiritual Abuse by David Johnson and Jeff Van Vonderen. I don't know if anyone at our home church ever read it. That was our final parting meeting with our home sending church of 14 years. It was yet another layer of grief that I didn't expect. Walking home from the park meeting that day, I realized I had done absolutely everything I could to get my voice heard or search for any morsel of relief from the injustice. I desperately wanted someone to hold these leaders accountable in all 3 of our support legs, field team, agency, and home church. I never expected to find myself hanging on for dear life to the bottom rung of the hierarchy ladder, only to discover my lack of subjection and compliance to authorities got my fingers stomped on until I fell off completely. There was nothing left to do. No one stepped in as mediator or representative on our behalf, and these are pastors. Their inaction left me helpless, defenseless, and with no other choice but to turn this mountain of suffering over to the Lord. This was going to take some time. I didn't know how things would ever change. I didn't know if I would be able to heal from this. I didn't know how to recover. I didn't know whether I'd be trapped inside this nightmare for the rest of my life. I retreated into myself. Who else could understand what had happened? Which of my close friends have gone through this? Who could relate? I put up walls and hid inside them. I wanted to shut out the world. I wanted to fly away anywhere. To escape the overwhelming pain. There was no one to comfort, no one to understand me. They had all walked away and left me brokenhearted and bleeding on the wayside. I was challenged to succumb to the pressures of an all-consuming darkness of hatred, rage, and revenge. I was challenged to reject the faith on account of the failures and sins of men abusing their positions of power, cutting off our ministry, and exploiting our weaknesses, all while claiming to represent Christ. All I could do was cry and drag myself through the motions of life day after day. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. I was a broken person. Although no one would suspect it, when I was with them, they didn't know that whenever I was alone, I couldn't stop the tears.